Hello, this is Andrew Thake from Minds and Money, and today I'm delighted to be joined by Jake Klein, Executive Chairman of Evolution Mining. Delighted to go and have you with us again, Jake.
Absolute pleasure, Andrew. Pity it's not in person, but happy we can speak online.
Excellent. I'd like to kick off with a question about Evolution. Evolution has grown into one of the largest gold producers in Australia. Can you please provide a brief overview on your strategy and journey to this point?
Sure. We started 10 years ago with a view that there was an opportunity to create a company that, I guess I've been in the industry now for 20 years, so that was 10 years ago. I'd just come out of our venture in China, with a view that Australia had been dominated by offshore participants largely, who previously had viewed Australia as a really strategic, important footprint, and they were starting to see that in their view it wasn't anymore, and their focus wasn't on Australia. So we saw an opportunity to rebuild a company that, or create a company that occupied the space of a genuine, growth-oriented, value-driven company, and we've been successful in the 10 years to date. So we started, with a three-way merger with some really, assets which largely don't form part of the portfolio today, but a belief that if we can create something that grows shareholder value on a consistent basis, and the stepping stones for that are to have a great culture and a great group of people, and to have great relationships with the community. And we've been largely successful in that. The journey's not nearly done yet. Best is yet to come, but we're on our way.
Mm-hmm. You made your first move into Canada, I think it was in April 2020, with the acquisition of Red Lake, and have just recently expanded your footprint in the region with the Battle North acquisition. What attracted you to Canada and the Red Lake district?
I think there are three real drivers. The one and the most important is the geology. The geology of Canada is fantastic. And in 2017, we started to look at Canada as an opportunity where there could be growth opportunities. The second is the rule of law and the security of tenure. I think we're living in a world where geopolitical risk is increasing. So I think investors are going to give countries like Australia and Canada a premium. And Canada definitely has a regulatory system where you go to sleep at night confident that you're going to own the asset the next morning. And the third thing is a great group of people and skills that are available. So if you have geology and you're going to own the asset and you have the people, it seems like a good place to be, and it's proven to be that.
Mm-hmm. In terms of just as a sort of like a follow-up question there, do you have any sort of like further plans to go and expand outside of Australia?
So our footprint is Australia and Canada. We want to be in first-tier jurisdictions. Rule of law can be relied on. They're big countries. There are opportunities in both of them. We've still got to do some proving of ourselves in Canada, and we now have a beachhead in the Red Lake district. So we see growth opportunities over there. We're not closed off to other opportunities, but they have to meet those criteria of rule of law, geology, and a great group of people. We've kind of ruled out Africa and South America, so it will be Australia and North America.
Mm-hmm. Back to some of your other sort of mines. For Cow, you're targeting an increase in production within the development of our high-grade underground mine. Where are you in the approvals process, and what is the long-term outlook at Cow?
Yeah, so just stepping back a minute, I talked about the fact that the senior producers, the majors, used to have a large footprint in Australia and then started to exit. So we bought Cow from Barrick in 2015 when they were exiting, and they decided to sell their assets in Australia. Cow was the last one they sold. At that stage, in an 8-year mine life, it was due to finish mining last year, actually, and process low-grade stockpiles. It had a reserve base of 1.6 million ounces. We've since mined 1.3 million ounces. We've generated more than the purchase price on a net mine cash flow basis. And today we have a reserve base of 3.9 million ounces and a mine life that goes out beyond 2032. And we expect with this underground to expand it to 15 to 20 years. So the geology is outstanding. The skills are great over there. And the regulatory system is good as well. So again, fits those criteria. Where we're at the moment is we're finishing the feasibility study. We're in the final stage of regulatory approval. There has been the public consultation process. We are deep in conversation with the New South Wales government. No red flags have been raised. They're due to issue their consent conditions in the next few weeks, and we expect to have an approval to proceed from a regulatory perspective and a board perspective in the first quarter, well, our September quarter, which is our first quarter in the new financial year. So the next 3 months.
Okay, excellent to hear. Ernest Henry has provided a strong cash generation of your business since its acquisition in 2016. What's the outlook for Ernest Henry?
The board and some of the leadership team were there a couple of weeks ago, and there's no doubt that Ernest Henry is a world-class mine, fantastically run by Glencore. They've operated it exceptionally well. The deal we have has two elements to it. The first is the current reserve base, which was defined when we acquired it in late 2016, and that goes out for another 5 or 6 years. And then you've got drilling, which is currently occurring below that reserve base, where our mix of commodity changes. So at the moment, we're getting 100% of the gold and 30% of the copper. And when we go below the existing reserves, it will be 49% of gold and copper, which with hindsight seems to be a good move, given the copper price changes. Totally lucky, by the way. But Glencore have a program. They started drilling last year. They've doubled the program this year. And we're expecting that we're going to go into a concept study phase where we're going to look at mine life extensions. And certainly we're optimistic that the ore body extends below the current reserves. In the next couple of years, we'll know how much longer this mine life will be extended, but it has not yet been cut off at depth.
Changing sort of subject from talking about evolution mining to talking about gold, what is your outlook for the gold price and how does this impact your strategy?
Andrew, you cannot ask a gold miner what their outlook on the gold price is. Have you ever met a gold miner who said it's going to go down?
That's true, that's true.
So let me start with the traditional gold miner's outlook. Yes, it's going to go up. Yeah, for the last, I think the best benchmark to say is that to look at is for the last 50 years since the gold standard was, since the US dollar came off the gold standard, US debt has gone up 70 times and the gold price has gone up 50 times. So the long-term trend is up, and you've got all this money printing and everything you've heard from other gold producers that gold's going to the moon in the long term. We don't at Evolution think about that a lot. Because we're building mines that have mine lives of between 10 and 30 years, let's call it. And in that 10 to 30 year period, you're going to get ups and downs of the gold price. So our belief is you have to be much more focused on being able to build a business that is going to prosper through the inevitable short-term cycle. And you need to be much more focused on value over volume and margins. So we are not wanting to focus on volumes. We're wanting to focus on margins much more, and that's bottom line to our shareholders. So yes, we believe the gold price is going to go up, but at the end of the day, that's an investor's decision to decide where the gold price is going. It's our obligation to steward their capital. We are allocators of their capital in the best possible way that gives them the best possible return, whatever the gold price.
What are your all-in sustaining costs like?
So our all-in sustaining costs are at the bottom end of the cost curve. They're in the sort of 1,200 Australian dollar range, and that's lowest, I think, amongst the lowest in the sector. And that's where we've looked at things from will acquisitions or divestments even. How do we keep improving the quality of our portfolio? And that is margins, mine life, and really the quality of the asset base, not the amount of gold we're producing.
Okay. Changing topics to ESG, which is obviously one of the sort of like huge trends, obviously, over the last few years. How has Evolution changed its business to meet the ESG demands of shareholders, but also stakeholders too?
Yeah, the demands are changing all the time, and they're increasing. And I think we should and accept that that is going to be the trend going forward. What would be good is if the various stakeholders kind of got a coordinated view as to what exactly they wanted in this space. But we have tried to get ahead of the curve in this area. Our approach is to look at carbon footprints. So, we wanted to understand what our carbon footprint is, how we can reduce it, and we will be putting out a statement of targets in the near future, which will meet the Paris Accord criteria and targets. And then we're also, given we're in effectively a very high-risk country with respect to water, or water is a very scarce commodity in Australia, our emphasis on water reduction. So those are the two kind of areas which we really are focused on from an ESG perspective and trying to do, I suppose what I keep describing to our team is, we're unlikely to change the world as a evolution, but we can change the world of the communities in which we operate in. And I think then getting it to that level means that we are focused on the areas and communities around our mine sites and try and make the biggest difference there.
You've obviously talked about your communities there and the communities that you operate in. Obviously, last year and still in 2021, we saw COVID-19. How did COVID-19 impact evolution, and how did you deal with it?
So yeah, COVID has been a tragic event for globally. You've seen so many people die from it and get ill from it. Yeah, so the lens which we're looking at it through is very fortunate. Australia, of course, has being a big island, closed down, and we haven't really had the same impact. It's only impacted interstate travel, but we haven't had any cases in Australia of COVID on our site. So I'd say here it's been an inconvenience more than anything else. Our Canadian colleagues at Red Lake have been more impacted, although we have only had one isolated case of COVID on the site. They have instituted rigid testing and everything, and they've managed it exceptionally well. It has had a fatigue aspect to the team on site. They are still limited in terms of the way in which they can conduct meetings, wearing face masks all the time. So the mental fatigue, I think, is real and needs to be recognized. But overall, it hasn't impacted our business. Much to my disappointment and my inability to get to sites, the sites have seemed to prosper in spite of that. So maybe that's a reflection of my impact on these site visits.
In terms of as like a long-term impact, how will COVID-19 impact the future of work? And I think in particular sort of like two things, I guess, like working from home, I guess, with regards to office workers, but also on site. Will we see more automation of mining as a result of COVID-19 in terms of the long term?
Look, I think that was a trend that was going to happen previously. The automation of mining is something that is happening, and technologies in other sectors is something that I think we can be fast followers on in the gold space. But when you think about it, the less people you can put underground, the more safe it is. The less ventilation you need, the less rock bolting and ground support. So the more we can automate, particularly underground mines, the better off we're going to be. From a work flexibility perspective, we are allowing some work flexibility, but prefer face-to-face engagement as the default position, but do allow some flexibility, particularly where skills are difficult to secure in certain places. We are flexible. As an observation, I've noticed in getting to work on a Monday and Friday and driving into the office, the roads do seem to be a lot less full.
Yeah, definitely. I've certainly become a disciple of the working from home after being very anti-working from home a couple of years ago. So yeah, it certainly has had like a bit of a change. Just as we've got just a couple of minutes left, I'm just kind of quite keen on asking you a few out of the box questions, which I have to say, just to the viewers listening in, I've drawn from a book by Timothy Ferriss called Tribe of Mentors. So a couple of slightly out of the box questions for you that I'm sure nobody else ever goes and asks you. What is the book or 3 books that you've been given as a gift, and why? Or if you were to go and give 1 to 3 books to someone to inspire them, what would they be?
I also listen to Tim Ferriss. He's really good.
Yeah.
So the first book, I would say Elon Musk by Ashley Vance. I actually gave 100 of those books to staff at Evolution. Anyone who wanted a book could just send me an email, and I was happy to send them a copy. And all they had to do was just write a couple of things as to how it changed their thinking or how they thought differently. Yeah, he's a genius who kind of inspires. Breaking through limitations, and that's what we kind of want to do at Evolution. So that would be one of the books. Sapiens by Yuval Harari, Noah Harari would be another. Just largely because he explains such complex, difficult concepts in a very simple, understandable way.
Okay, that's going to be interesting. Sapiens was also chosen by Pierre Lassonde as well, so obviously great kind of gold miners go and think alike. So yeah,
I haven't seen Pierre's interview yet. We haven't conspired.
And just like another question from Timothy Ferriss's book, how has a failure or apparent failure set you up for later success? Do you have a favorite failure of yours? If
you operate in the mining industry and you haven't had a failure, you haven't been operating in the real mining sector. This is an industry that has, I'm describing it as, I suppose, periods of calm interspersed with moments of terrifying pain. Things go wrong. This is not a perfectly predictable industry. Working in China for 15 years, gold mines there, lots of things defined how I've chosen to operate. It's probably around, safety is probably the thing which has the biggest impact on a personal level. Hurting people. We did have a couple of fatalities early on in my career in China, and they had a massive impact as to just the importance of not only safety, but just a value-driven culture, which really does put people first. Well, thank you very much, Jake. We are out of time. That was a fantastic interview. Always a pleasure to meet you. Jake Klein, Jake Klein, Executive Chairman, Evolution Mining, with Andrew Thake from Mines and Money. Thank you very much.